Then
So in question number 9, it was asked to generate some random numbers and then find out the mean and standard deviation. Compare with the given mean and standard deviation.
compare with the
Given mean and standard deviation.
yes.
So when I compared the even after taking 1000 data points, the standard deviation I found the error was more than 15%, whereas mean the error was negligible. It was less than 1%.
Okay. So anyway, we'll come back to that one. Okay. So you have submitted, right, already?
Yes, sir.
I will come back to that one. So anyway, so we will start our discussion. So last class, if you remember, right, so we have started this reliability calculations. So we have seen this Haushofer-Lind reliability index basically. Okay, when the things are non-linear or other problems are there, say. So your mean value, the Taylor series expansion, you see, if you do around the mean values, that may be having some issues. So that's why we got this Haushofer-Lind reliability index itself. So here the main objective, if you remember, right, what was our main this one? So the reliability is defined this way. Basically, you are minimizing, okay, this beta, that is the distance actual, okay, from the origin to your performance function or something. So subjected to this constraint, because your performance function has to be 0 on that particular boundary. So this is what we have defined our this Haushofer-Lind reliability index itself. So when you do this constrained optimization, say, so then it will lead to a set of lot of equations will be there, like alpha I, dou g, and all those things will come into picture. So of course we have not done the derivation, but if you are interested, say, okay, so you can even look at the derivation also. So what we try to do is you follow. So like you say, minimum, you have to minimize that beta. Okay. So this is minimization of this beta subjected to this constraint actually. So your g, whatever you follow, right? So this function has to be equal to 0, where beta is nothing but the minimum distance actually. That's square root of whatever we wrote, right? So square root, this x dash transpose or whatever, so this was our beta actually. Okay, so this is how it is defined. So if you want to do also, you can do this, the constraint optimization, say. So if you remember, last class I told you, so now the objective function, when it is a constraint optimization, so the objective function will be, so you will have this minimum. Okay, so if I define zi, say, as xi minus mu I by sigma of I. So this is our standard normal variates, say. So now we have to minimize this distance actually. Okay, so distance anyway is given by this expression. So x2 minus x1 you follow, right? So since the origin is 0, because we have taken the standard normal variate, so it will be like this. Plus because we also have a constraint to say, like your this performance function also has to be 0. So we write like this actually, lambda, this is my objective function. Okay, so this is how like this. Now I have to write, suppose if I denote this by some L something like that. So now you have to minimize with respect to this zi's or whatever, this zj's or something like that. So this has to be equal to 0 actually. Okay, so now this lambda is nothing but the Lagrange multiplier. So generally in constraint optimization, we add this lambda. So now when you differentiate this expression, say, so you will get, half, you see, sigma, zj square whole to the power of minus half will come. Then 2 times, zi plus we have, right, lambda into dou g by, you see, dou, zi, then, dou zi, say, by, you see, sorry, dou xi, I'm sorry. So these expressions will be, dou xi, then dou xi, say, by dou zi. So like this, we will have a lot of expressions will be there is equal to 0. And then, you have to do the minimization, you have to equal and then do this one. So this way, finally, you will get this set of equations. Okay, I have skipped the derivation, But if you want, say, you can try, you know, this constraint optimization, you minimize. That is how, you know, you will get all these expressions actually, dou g by dou zi. Then finally, you know, that d you have to calculate alphas and other things will be there. So it is a procedure actually, constraint optimization, okay, which is straightforward. So this was algorithm, you know, which we gave in the last class. So first you write your limit state function, and then you obtain an initial design point to say. So this is you have assumed actual, okay. But here what we said was, if there are n design points are there, say we will assume only n minus 1 only, okay. The remaining one, because you have a constraint actual, okay, because your g has to be 0. So from that constraint you calculate the nth value. So once these values are there, so now you find out your zi star, that is the reduced variates you try to find out. So now you have to calculate all the partial derivatives. You know, this comes from that constraint optimization, okay. So that we are denoting by g and other things also. So once you get, so you will can calculate this beta from this expression, and then you have to find out alphas, you know, which are nothing anyway. These are the constraint optimization, you know, these type of equations comes. So finally you will find out a new design point, and then you calculate the newly, once again, you know, you have to do it in iterative fashion, because your design points are also unknown, beta is also unknown, say. So you have to do it in iterative fashion until, you know, all the numbers converge actually, okay. So this is what we told in the last class. And this simple problem also we tried actually, okay. Some continuous beam, you know, so if this is objective function, say, so how do we calculate? And these are the random variables like w, e and I, say they are only the random variables, and you know only the mean value and standard deviation. So we did, you know, we wrote the expression, then the mean value we took it, and x3 star says, so this we don't assume the nth value. So we calculate from our constraint actual, okay. And then, you know, reduced variates you find out, the g's have to be calculated, and then beta has to be done, alpha has to be calculated, and the new design point, say. So like that, you know, you have to do all the steps. So you have to repeat this, okay, until you know, the values converge. So convergence means, you know, you see, like for example, beta, say now 1 2 3 fourth iteration you have got as 3.18 actually. Now in the fifth iteration you have got as 3.18. So what does it mean? If your beta value is not getting changed, say, so what do you call this one? So that itself is known as no. See, when the values are, you know, like the third iteration 3.21, then 3.18 came, then the next iteration 3.18 came. So if the same thing is repeating, say, what do you mean?
Beta value
It is. So if the same thing is getting repeated, say, okay, so that means, you see, your things have automatically, you know, convergence actually, okay. So that is how, you know, we calculate. But here the problem is, you know, not only the beta values, so you have to get convergence on even the design points also, that is x1 star, x2 star, and x3 star also. So beta may converge in 4 steps, but x1 star, x2 star, x3 star they may converge in 8 steps. So until and unless you get convergence, say, on both the numbers, okay, so you have to get convergence on beta as well as the design points, okay. So you have to repeat this, you know, the entire exercise actually, okay. Of course, computing, you know, calculating, you know, it will take a lot of time. But if you write a simple computer programs in MATLAB and then put some type of a for loop actual, okay, so then you know, it becomes very fast and you can calculate all those numbers itself. So this is how you know, we can calculate from this Haushofer-Lind reliability index. So here we don't do anything, simply, you know, our it is a constraint optimization problem. So you are minimizing the distance subjected to this constraint actual, okay. So now Lagrange multiplier if you do, you will get a set of equations and then you solve it in a iterative framework actual, okay. Now the most important thing, if you see in the Haushofer-Lind reliability index, say, now in these calculations, you know, what are the inputs required? Say, like for example, in this problem, what were the inputs here? Now, so where you do it, although we are having a random variables, W, E, I, all of them are random variables only. But are you using the probability density function here? See, in the calculations, whether you require the probability density function of x1 or probability density function of x2, x3, whether it is required or what is that we are using in this all the calculations.
We simply used the mean value.
We are using just only the mean and standard deviation only. You followed. So we are not using, the probability density function or whatever. So that is that thing is not directly used in this calculations also. So this is the most, the important thing. Only we are using the mean and standard deviation only. Standard deviation is used to find out your normal, this variates actually, and then we are calculating the things itself. Okay. So the most important thing is the probability density function or distribution function is not, used actually, is not, used in the calculations or whatever we have. And here the Haushofer-Lind reliability index, the main thing is, it assumes this works very well for normal random variables, because you are taking mean and standard deviation, say. So which random variable, is like normal random variable, if you know mean and standard deviation, you know everything about that random variable itself. No other moments are not required actually. Okay. So so the assumption is the normal things, it works perfectly, you follow, right? The fine itself, and we don't use the probability density function itself actually. Okay. So this method is fine, but it will have some problems will be there if the things are not normal distributions. Then you may have some issues actually. So for this, another procedure is that what we call as Rack-Wedge. Okay. So Rack-Wedge Fiesler procedure has used. So this is another method actually. Okay. So which has the non-Gaussian also. So if it is a non-Gaussian things, and then so one can use this methodology also has come into picture basically. Now here in this method, say this method also uses the probability density functions of the random variables. So this also is used actually in the calculations. Okay, it is not directly this itself. So now what this method says is we use if the random variables are not Gaussian, say, so what to do is we convert actually. So convert all the the densities, say. So in this method we convert all the density functions into equivalent normal. So this is the most the important thing. Okay. So if you take any random variable, say like for example, I have a random variable x, its mean value is mu of x, and its standard deviation is a sigma x, and then it's a cumulative distribution function, say. If I denote this as some px of x, and it's a density function, say px of x actually. Okay, so this is I am having a random variable, this one. Now I have to convert this into a equivalent normal actually. So this density function, distribution function, they are non-Gaussian basically. So it may be some other complicated distribution basically. Okay. So what this procedure does is, so you may have your random variables may be extreme value distribution, or it may be anything else. But if you know their density and distribution, say, now all these things, the first step is you have to convert all of them into equivalent, the normal random variables. So this is the most, the important step, the first step. So this step is missing actually in Haushofer-Lind reliability index. So what this procedure suggests is first to convert all of them into normal. So what they say is like this actual. So now to obtain this equivalent normal, say. So what the constraint we use is like this. So what here we try to say is the the equivalent. Let us say the equivalent things mean is this one, and sigma x is so these are the equivalent. Okay, equivalent normal mean and standard deviation. The original mean and standard deviation are these two. So these are the equivalent. So now this has to be estimated actually. Now to estimate this one, what this method says is that the probability distribution function, say, and density function. Okay. So this should be equal. This should be same as the normal CDF and the density function. Okay. x star at the value, at the design point, say, on the surface, on the surface or the boundary on the surface, that gx star or whatever, this has to be equal to 0 actual. So this is my design point actual. Okay, so now I have to calculate. So now this, the constraint here is the probability density says. So now this is my data, that is a px at x star. Okay, this is the original distribution. So this should be same as the normal distribution. So normal distribution, anyway, we use this symbol phi. So x star, say, minus mu x, which is an equivalent this itself by sigma x, say, the equivalent type. So this is a constraint. The probability distribution also, even the density function, say px of x star. Okay, so this has to be equal to, so 1 by, you see, sigma. So you can just differentiate this expression. So phi, so x star, say, minus mu e x by, you see, sigma x of e. So this is the constraint actual. So here what the constraint, what the thing, what we are trying to say is at the design point, basically. Exactly at the design point, and the design point lies on your limit state only. Okay, that failure surface itself or that boundary, whatever we have said, the probability is density is the probability distribution function also, as well as the density function. So this is a distribution function and this is a density function. So both of them should be same actual. So this is my equivalent normal, okay, which is on the right hand side, and this is the non-Gaussian distribution. So you are equating the probabilities basically. So at this design point, the probability, whatever you estimate from the original data, and the probabilities you get from the equivalent normal distribution, both of them should be same actual. Okay. So now using these two equations, say you solve these two equations and then you estimate this, mu e x, this one, and as well as sigma x actual. Okay. So that the thing is like, so solve the above two equations, say one for distribution, other for density function, okay, to calculate. So sigma x of e and then mu x of e. So this is a requirement actually, okay, because two unknowns are there. So one, you have a density and you have a distribution. So you equate both of them and then you calculate this number. So you solve these two equations. So you can also write this expression as like this. Okay. So mu x of e. So this becomes, x star minus sigma x of e. Okay. So phi inverse. So from these expressions, if you solve, automatically you will get, so px, say, of x star. Okay, this is the expression for mu x, and your sigma x, say, that is the equivalent standard deviation. So 1 by the px of x. So px of x star. Okay, and phi x star minus mu x of e by, you see, sigma x of e. So this is our this one, and finally say, so if I write nicely in this expression, so sigma x of e, so this becomes 1 by px of x star. Okay, so phi, and then phi inverse also will be there, px of x star. So this way, we have to calculate actually. So what it says is, so now once you know the equivalent normal distributions, so equivalent normal mean and equivalent normal standard deviation. So now the procedure is, straightforward. Okay, whatever we did previously, say that itself we can use to calculate our all the design points as well as the reliability index. So the steps are very simple. Okay, the same thing. The steps are very simple. The first step is, so you formulate this limit state function. Okay, this is the first step. So you have to write the equation for the limit state. That is that you have to define what do you mean by failure and other things. And then you also should find out all the random variables. Okay, all the random variables, you have to, you should find out what are all the random variables, and you also should know the probability density function, of course, as well as distribution. Anyway, both of them are, one if you know, other one you can easily calculate by integration or derivation. So this you have to do. Now the next step is you obtain the design point. Estimate, for the design point. So here also, as already we said, n minus 1 things you can assume. Okay. Now, what is the best starting assumption? Now, what did we say? How do you assume these design points? What is the initial estimates? See, how did we calculate for the problem which we solved in the last class? What was the starting point? So you have to assume some points, right, in the starting. So x1 star, x2 star, like that you have to assume. What is that we did in the previous class? Now, what is the best guess?
Mean.
So whatever is the mean and standard deviation, say, whatever is the mean value, that itself you can assume as the this one. Now here also the same concept is you follow them. Same procedure only. Okay. So obtain estimate for the this one on n minus 1. You can take from the mean value. So n minus 1 random variables, right? You take as same as the mean value. But the nth value. But the nth random variables, that is nth design point. How to calculate the nth design point? You have to assume, or what did we do in the last class? No.
Last class we obtained from the constant by solving the
What was that constraint? So your constraint was this has to be. So if I substitute x1 star, x2 star, x3 star in my limit state, so that has to be equal to 0. So that is how we calculated x3 star actually from this expression. Okay, so that is the constraint is my failure surface has to be this one. So nth design point. So you have to solve your g x1 star, x2 star you followed, right? So like this, you solve this expression, you find out my nth design point. So this is how the design points will be on the failure surface. Okay. So if you don't do this expression, say, that means your design point is not on the failure surface. That is the main important thing. Now now the third step is that one which you have to do additional extra. So now what we are trying to say is, suppose if x1, x2, x3 all random variables are normal random variables, say, then whatever steps we did previously, that itself is valid. But right now what we're saying is some of the random variables, they are not normal distribution. So these figures, this step 3 will be different actually. So now for each design point, so for each of the design point, xi star, because it is not corresponding to non-Gaussian distribution. So they are all non-Gaussian, the distribution, say. So you have to estimate basically equivalent normal. So the equivalent normal mean, and then the equivalent is the normal standard deviation. Okay, so you have to calculate from this expression, that is this expression. So this has to be estimated. So mu x, this one, and then sigma x, say E, from this expression. So this has to be calculated. So now once you know the normal, this one, say, now you have to find out our standard variates actually. So you find out the standard variates. So from this expression, okay, that is Zi star. So Zi star is xi star minus mu x of E by then sigma x of E. So this you have to calculate. So previously we used to take directly the data things itself, but if it is a non-Gaussian set, then you have to do this mu x and sigma x will be this expression. Now once the standard variates are there, so now the other steps are all same. You have to find out all the partial derivatives, Okay, so you have to calculate all the partial derivatives actually, okay, of the this limit state function. So this has to be calculated actually. Okay, this expression has to be done. So this has to be calculated, and we have already defined gi is dou g by dou zi at the design points. So this comes from the constraint optimization procedures. So if you arrange all the derivatives in terms of a vector or whatever, so this turns out to be, you have to calculate all the derivatives, G1, G2, G3, up to, Gn. So this has to be calculated. All the derivatives have to be done. Now, once this is done, now you have to calculate, the reliability index. Okay, an estimate of beta. So the expression also, it is available. So which comes from the constraint optimization. So G transpose say multiplied by Z star, okay, divided by square root of G transpose multiplied by G. Okay, so where our design point is my Z star in the reduced, that standard normal variator whatever up to Zn star. So this is my expression for beta actually. So now once beta is done, so you calculate alphas also. Okay, which are anyway the derivatives only. Okay, so this alpha is becomes, you see, this is G, that vector divided by square root of you see G transpose into G itself, and then you have to find out the new design point. Okay, new design point. So which is given by this expression. So Zi star say is alpha I into beta. So you will get, you see, once again this new design point. So here also you calculate only for n-1 variables actually. Okay, but for the nth variable, if you want to find out Zn star say, so that you have to calculate for the nth one. You have to calculate from our limit state function. So this constraint has to be satisfied actually. So once you have got all these design points, say, so now once again, so you have to find out our new this one. So the xi star will be mu xi plus zi star sigma, xi e. Okay, so now this you find out all our xi's here, and then the nth xi say you calculate from G, this itself is equal to 0 actually. Now you repeat steps from so once you have got this one say, so now the next thing is you have to repeat all the steps actually. So once you have calculated xi star say, now you have to go to this step 3. Okay, so once again you have to find out the equivalent normal mean, equivalent normal standard deviation, and you have to repeat all the procedures actually. So repeat the steps from 3 to 9 actually. Okay, until you will get convergence basically, until the convergence for beta as well as the design value also xi star. Okay, converge. So these are the steps actually. So the procedure is exactly same as whatever you have done previously, but the only difference here is all other steps are all same, but only thing is every time you have to find out this equivalent normal mean and then equivalent normal standard deviation. That's the only difference between these both the procedures actually. Okay, so now let us do one simple problem so that things becomes clarity. Okay, so now you have to calculate this the reliability index for a steel compact beam. So we have a steel beam. So the limit state function say. So previously for the continuous beam, we wrote the limit state in terms of deflections actually. Okay, so you can do, so now here I think it is based on strength, I think. So this is a moment capacity. So Z into Fy minus M. So this is the limit state function basically. Okay, and now the distributions are like this. So Z variable Z, we have Fy, and then we have M, that is like the load also. So these are the distributions basically. Now Z is normal distribution, whereas Fy is log normal, the resistance that this one, and M say this is an extreme value. So extreme distribution, that is a type 1. Okay, so these are the and the mean value say. So now we have the mean value and then coefficient of variation. So the mean value coefficient of variation is like this. For Z it is 100 and coefficient of variation is 4% actually. Now this is a 40 and this is a 10% and this is a 2000 and this is 10% is the coefficient of variation. Okay, so this is what has been given to us actually. So now we are having 3 random variables. So Z is normal, but Fy is log normal and M is extreme type 1 distribution. So these are the numbers which has been provided to us actually. So now we have to calculate this what is that? The design points as well as our the reliability index itself. Now you comment on the limit state functions, whether it is a linear or non-linear. See this and tell me linear or non-linear it is.
Linear.
Linear.
Non-linear.
where non-linearity is coming?
Because Z and Fi both are random variables.
Excellent. So because Z into Fi, suppose if I would have told Z is deterministic, say, then it could have been linear only. No need to do all these things itself. Okay, so it would have been simply a linear function. But since because of Z is also random variable, so that is the problem which we are facing actually. Okay, so these are the numbers. So now we have to calculate our reliability index as well as our design points. Okay, and now you have to do all the calculations. So now we are having three random variables. So x1. So let us denote this z as x1, then x2 say is fy, and then the third random variable is x3. So this is my m itself actual. Okay, so these are the three random variables we have. So now the first thing is we have to find out our limit state, this one. So g x1 x2 x3. So this will be simply x1 times x2 minus x3. So this is our first step, the limit state function actual. Okay, now the second one is you have to find out the design points. So the initial design points have to be assumed. Now, so what are the best assumptions of the design points? X1 star, then X2 star has to be assumed actually. What is the best assumption for X1 star? 100. So where you have to take the data, it's the data mean. So I'm taking whether it is a normal or log normal, I am not bothered in the starting. So we take whatever is the mean value reported. So that itself you can take it as a estimate actually for the initial design point. So now only two we will take actually. The remaining third one you have to assume from none. So this you will take it as a 2000, or what is that we did previously also. Now our constraint is see, our constraint is if I substitute the design points in my limit state function, say the output should be
0.
So if I substitute x1 star, x2 star, x3 star, it should be 0. So substitute in this equation, say. So you can easily calculate. So now what is x3 star value? Can you tell me? So x1 is 100, x2 is 40. What will be x3 star? Such that g will become 0. So that becomes x3 will be simply x1 times x2 itself. Okay, so this becomes 4000 actually. Okay, so this you calculate from the limit state actually. So your x1 star, x2 star, and then x3 star. So it is something like we are enforcing that it will be 0. So this is the next step. And now the third step is the one which is the different step. So now you have to find out your equivalent the normal and other details itself. Okay, so now first one for the z, say you have to worry about z. So for z any calculation is required, additional calculation, step 3. See, z is what type of random variable it is?
Normal random variable.
So normal. So there is no need to do any equivalent normal actually, because the 104% coefficient of variation, that itself you can directly use it. But the problem comes only for these two. One is log normal, other one is extreme type 1 distribution. So for this only you have to do the calculations. Okay, and now log normal, say this is a data mean actually. Okay, so the data mean is 40 and coefficient of variation is 10%. But you have to calculate for the log normal distribution the parameters actually. Okay, so the x1 there is no need to worry. So x2 is equal to f of y, say. So this you have to do the log normal. So this you have to find out the equivalent the numbers itself. Okay, so now for log normal distribution, you remember, right, long back we have written, so sigma square of log of fy, say. So if you remember the old this one, so 1 plus sigma square of fy by mu square of fy. So we write like this actually. Okay, so this is turns out to be so this whatever values have been provided, you say they are this is the mean value of f of y, not log of f of y. Okay, the coefficient of variation is also for f of y, not for log of f of y. So you have to find out the log normal parameter. So this turns out to be 9.95 into 10 to the power of minus 3. So the mean value, so the standard deviation of logarithm log normal random variable is 0.0998 actually, and the mean value, say mu of log of f of y. Okay, so this is log of mu of f of y minus half log sigma square, sorry, sigma square log of f of y. So this you substitute, so you will get these numbers actually. So these are the parameters. So this is the mean value and this is the standard deviation of my log normal the distribution itself. Now I have to find out my equivalent normal, the equivalent normal mean and equivalent normal standard deviation. So our constraint is so this is my px say at the design point, that is at x2 star. Okay, so this should be same as which comes from the normal distribution, that is log of x2 star, okay, minus mu log f of y, okay, by using the sigma log f of y. So this is a one constraint actually, that is which comes from the probability distribution function. Now similarly the density function also we have to write our equations actually. Okay, so the density function, that is a px of x2 star. Yeah, so this should be so you can write the derivative and others, 1 by root of 2 pi 1 by sigma log of fy, okay, x2 star here, e to the power of yeah, so that expressions will be there, minus half log x2 star minus mu log f of y, okay, by sigma log f of y. This is whole square, and then you put all the brackets actually. So this also has to be calculated. So this if we substitute say, so px so this expression, so one is for the distribution and another one is for the density function. So this you can substitute actually all those numbers. So this turns out to be 0.520 and this turns out to be 0.0999, and then you can calculate the equivalent parameters. So the equivalent the parameters can be calculated. So sigma e f of y. So this becomes 1 by p f of y of x2 star, okay, phi of phi inverse, okay, p of f of y x2 star. So this has to be calculated. So this turns out to be 1 by 0.0999 multiplied by so this is a normal distribution phi 0.0499 actually. Okay, so this turns out to be 3.99. Okay, so this is the first equation which contains your standard deviation actually. Now similarly the mean value also has to be calculated. So mu e of f of y. So this turns out to be x2 star, okay, minus sigma e f of y phi inverse. So from that equivalent equations, we have the numbers p f of y x2 stars. Okay, so this also if you substitute, this turns out to be 39.8 actually. So these are the equivalent means and equivalent standard deviations actually. Okay, for the equivalent normal and equivalent the normal standard deviation and the normal mean. So this has to be calculated basically. Now this is for the random variable x2 which is log normal. Now you have to have a this one also, that is for this also you have to convert, but here this is extreme the type 1 distribution. So type 1 distribution we have already discussed actually. Okay, so now that for the x3 star, this one you have to calculate. So the probability distribution function say this will be it is a double exponential, if you remember, right, minus exponential some alpha we wrote actually, if you remember, m minus some u, we write like this, and the density function say for the type 1, that is that Gumbel distribution, a e to the power of minus a into m minus u, and then e to the power of minus exponent, it's double exponent is that. Exponent of minus exponent of minus a m minus u. Okay, so this is a probability density function, and the mean value that u is equal to mu of m, the parameters say of this exponent distribution 5772 by a, because you will have gamma functions and all other things. Pi square by using 6 times sigma square m. So these are the parameters of our the extreme value distribution. So now if you substitute mu m and sigma m, say, which you have got from the data, that is a 2000, and coefficient of variation also so from that you can calculate the standard deviation. If you substitute in these expressions, you will get a as 0.00 641 and U as 1910. So these are the parameters of type 1 distributions. Okay, so these are the parameters actually of the type 1 distribution. So now we have to find out the probability distribution actually. So PM at x3 star. Okay, I know the parameters now. I know A value and I also know the U value also. Now I have to find out at the x3 star, that is at the design point. What is x3 star? 4000 actual. So if I substitute 4000 in that expression, say, okay, so I will get this quantity as 9.99 into 10 to the power of minus 1. So this is a probability distribution function at that value. Now the density function also I can find out. So I will substitute 4000 say. So I will get 9.69 into 10 to the power of minus 9. So these are the probabilities actually, the distribution function value, the density function value at that corresponding design point. Now you have to find out the equivalent, the parameters. So the equivalent normal, mean and standard deviation. So this has to be estimated. Okay, so from those equations, so we already wrote here. No. So sigma E M, so this becomes 1 by the density function. So 1 by PM of x3 star. Okay, phi inverse P this is capital P here, x3 star. Okay, so this if I substitute, we already know PM of x3 star say. If I substitute x3 star as 4000, so these values itself. So substitute everything. Okay, so 1 by 9.69 into 10 to the power of minus 9. Into 10 to the power of minus 9. So phi inverse of 0.999 actually. So if you substitute everything, this turns out to be 759. Then similarly, so the mean value has to be calculated. So x3 star minus sigma m e. So phi inverse PM of x3 star. So this turns out to be 456 actually. So these are the equivalent, the normal mean and equivalent normal standard deviation actually. So this has been done. So now the next step is, you have to find out the variance. So Z1 star you have to calculate. So this becomes, x1 star minus the mean value say by sigma z. Okay, because z is normal distribution and we have taken the initial design point same as the mean say. So this turns out to be 0. And Z2 star say this turns out to be x2 star, okay, minus now we have to use the equivalent, the mean value and the equivalent, the standard deviations. The design point remains the same only, but these things are going to change. So 0.0501 and Z3 star say, okay. So this one will be x3 star minus, mu E M by sigma, m e. So this turns out to be 4.69. So these are our reduced variates. Now after this, you have to calculate the G vector. That is nothing but the derivatives. So this has to be calculated. So here there are only 3 random variables. Okay. So dou G by dou Z1 minus value, and this you have to evaluate at the design points. So this turns out to be, so you can substitute and you can do also x2 star into sigma z. Okay, and G2. So this turns out to be minus dou G by dou Z2, and you have to evaluate at the design points. So this turns out to be minus x1 star sigma Fy. You can calculate. Okay, so similarly G3 say that's the second derivative, the third last derivative also. This also turns out to be minus G by dou Z3, and you have to evaluate at the design points. So if we substitute all those numbers, it turns out to be sigma m of E itself. So these are the derivatives. So now you have to calculate beta. Okay, so which is given by this expression. So G transpose, okay, Z star divided by, G transpose into G. So if you substitute, it turns out to be 4.04. So this is our initial estimate of the reliability index actually. So once reliability index is done, now you have to calculate alphas. Okay, which are anyway G, there is a G transpose into G. So these are the alpha. So this problem, it turns out to be minus 0.183 and then minus 0.457 and then we have 0.87. So these are the alphas basically. So once you know the alphas, so now you have to find out, you see, the new Z stars actually. Okay, so the 8 step. So now you find out the new value, the new design points. So here also we calculate only up to n minus 1. The nth one will be calculated from our that constraint G has to be 0. So Z1 star, it is alpha 1 into beta. Okay, so this turns out to be minus 0.739 and then Z2 stars. So this turns out to be minus 1.85. So now once you have Z1 star and Z2 stars, you calculate X1 star. Okay, so mu Z plus Z1 star multiplied by sigma Z. So this turns out to be 97. Then X2 star, this will be mu E f of y. We are using the equivalent only, not the original. This one Z2 stars multiplied by sigma f of y into E. So this turns out to be 32.4. Now this X3 star, don't calculate from this one. You calculate from this expression x1 star, x2 star, then x3 stars. So this has to be equated to 0. So you solve this and then you find out your x3 star. Now once you have done this x1 star, x2 star, x3 star, and now what's the next step? Now, so once you do this one, once again you have to repeat from which step? X1, x2, x3. If you know these expressions, so now once again you have to calculate this step 3. That is you followed, right? So this once again you have to do all the calculations. Once again you have to find out the equivalent mean, equivalent normal, this itself, and then you have to repeat the entire exercise. So you repeat basically from step 3. Okay, that means your calculation of equivalent normal mean and standard deviation. So you have to repeat all the steps until beta and your Zi star or Zi star or Xi star basically converge. So this is how you have to adapt the you have to write it in a loop kind of a thing. You have to do all this calculate. I think this problem so the beta so the first step we got as 4.04. Then I think second iteration it turns out to be 4.02, then 4.02, then 4.03 and then 4.03. It converges in 5 steps basically. And the design points also, I think everything converges in 5 steps. So the final design points after 5th iteration. Okay, so that turns out to be 96.8 and then 32.9 and then you say 3189. So these are the design points, the converged design points, and the converged this one is 4.03. Okay, so this is how you calculate all the reliability index as well as the design points so from this calculations actually. Okay, so there are a lot of so if you want to solve it with your hand it for simple problems you can do. But if it's sometime there may be a problem where you may get convergence after 100 iterations or 200 iterations also. So then you can solve only in a computer actually. Okay, by hand it may be difficult itself. Okay, so this way we can calculate all the reliability index as well as the design points for non-Gaussian also. So Haushofer-Lind thing was there was no assumption, there was nothing like that. You see, just you take the data mean and standard deviation and then you proceed it basically. Now if you have the data mean and standard deviation and you also have the additional information say that your data is not normal or if it is some other type of random variable, so this RAC-wedge procedure can be used. But the problem is you should have additional information also. So previously we used to take only these two and then you can calculate Haushofer-Lind. But to do by this RAC-wedge procedure, so you require this information also, and then you can calculate your reliability index and then your design points basically. Okay, so this way you can calculate for non-Gaussian also.
Sir,
And, tell me.
sir, what will be the differences between the Monte Carlo simulation and this method, sir? Because we have seen one exam question in the assignment also, just these different type of variables, and we have solved by Monte Carlo simulation.
No, you tell me. So which is, see, Monte Carlo means what is the advantage, what is the disadvantage?
It's all about an analytical thing in Monte
No,
Carlo.
Monte Carlo, analytical. See, in Monte Carlo, suppose this problem, say, let us say this problem I have to solve by Monte Carlo procedure. Same problem only. Okay. Now I have to find out reliability index or whatever, you know, I have to do from this expression itself. Okay. Now, if I want to do by Monte Carlo simulation, say, what is that you try to do? See, Monte Carlo simulation means what is that you are doing? You remember last time, you know, what did we do in Monte Carlo? What's the starting point in Monte Carlo simulation?
We generate random distribution numbers.
Random variables, right? To compute that probability of failure, you remember one problems we did long back also. So if you want to do by Monte Carlo simulations, you have to generate these random variables. So here, if it is a normal or whatever it is there, say you generate normal whatever random variables according to their original PDFs, and then you substitute and then you find out how many samples you remember that probability of failure you try to do here there itself. But now that is one type of procedure. But you remember long back when we discussed about Monte Carlo simulations, what was the main negative thing with Monte Carlo? See, when we did that Monte Carlo simulations, what was the disadvantage of Monte Carlo simulation? No, so what was that? This one?
We require large number of sample data.
You require how many random variables you have to generate? You remember this one when we discussed it there. Where was the one thing was there? No, we wrote one expressions also, right? So this is what random variables we said. So now this was the expression actually. Now to compute probabilities, how many samples are required? You remember this was the expression. How many samples? How many random variables you have to generate depending on your probability of failure? And we have also said that if the probability of failure, if you are looking at probability of failure as low as 10 to the power of -4 or something like that, say how many samples are required? See, like this one for 10 to the power of -2. So this is my probability of failure. If you want to estimate 10 to the power of -2, this much very, very low probability. Say how many samples was required?
990.
So 9,900, right? This one was there. So I just 10 to the power of -1 I wrote, but 9,900 samples are required. And if it is 10 to the power of -4, say, so you require something like 1 lakh samples, 1 lakh times you have to do the simulations basically. You followed on a computer. But now that is one way. So large number of samples are required, and you can find out probability of failure. If you know probability of failure, say reliability index, probability of failure, both of them are interlinked. You followed it. That phi of this one you can calculate. But now in this procedure, say, what is the advantage of this procedure? Whatever we have discussed is a form or Haushofer-Lind reliability index or whatever we are doing right now. How many iterations you are doing here?
5 for that particular example.
See, in this problem, what is the reliability index? 4.04. See, 4.04 means what is the corresponding probability of failure? Remember these expressions? So for 4.04 reliability index, you remember long back, so for 4.04, generally the probability of failure will be something like 10 to the power of -5 actually. The probability of failure. So if you are to 10 to the power of -5, so how many Monte Carlo simulations you have to do?
Around 90,000 or 9.
More than that, lakhs you have to do, you followed, right? Now that was for Monte Carlo. Now with this analytical formulation of this Rack-Wedge procedure or whatever, how many iterations you have done?
5.
Now the same problem, if you want to do by Monte Carlo, say, you have to run your code how many times? Almost 1 lakh or 2 lakh times you have to run your code. You followed. But then the advantage there is you don't have anything, no assumptions. You can directly solve it by Monte Carlo. But number of simulations are so huge actually. Okay. But if you want to solve by this method, say, the advantage is how many iterations are required? Hardly 5 iterations, you will get the answer itself. You followed. So which is more faster actually, this one or the Monte Carlo?
Like which method?
But of course, fast means nowadays the supercomputers have come. No, if you want to do the same problem in Monte Carlo also, you would have done right in your computer. If you want to find out 1 lakh random variable, automatically computers are so fast. Both of them will be same. Now here this problem, let us say by Monte Carlo, if you do, it may take some 5 seconds to say. If you do by Rack-Witty procedure, it may do some 3 seconds itself. 2 seconds maybe this one. But here you are solving only one steel beam. Suppose if you are solving a big structure and so many things are there, say, then this method may have some advantages actually. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
So same problem you can do by Monte Carlo also. You followed. By Monte Carlo means no steps, no procedure. Simply you generate. We calculated previously that Taylor series, something we have done long back, the probability of failure. So you can solve directly also. No need to do this way. This is another way, but this is much more computationally, very simple and very quick. You can get the numbers. That is the only advantage. Okay.
Yes.
No, so that is the only computational efficiency, nothing else. But Monte Carlo is much more, general actually. Whatever random variable you have, right? No assumption, you can directly use it. But only thing is computational, it takes more time, nothing else. Now the same thing. So now if you are having correlated random variables. So the random variables are correlated. See, like in the previous problem, we have taken F, Y, Z, M. They are all uncorrelated actually. Suppose if they are correlated, say, then what you will do? What did we do previously? Like previously also I told you, right? When you are having correlated random variables, how do you generate correlated random variables? How do you handle? See, previously we have said, right, for correlated random variables, how you will handle? See, how to generate correlated random variable, you remember that when we discussed these things. Where is that one? What did we do previously?
We had done we had multiplied some matrix to make it.
Yes. So what did we do? We have said that we can do eigenvalue, eigenvector analysis, and then right, that transformations. You remember, no? You can do this way also. Now, of course, you can make them uncorrelated, and then you can do also. But here you have a slight problem will be there if the random variables are not normal and others. This one. So of course, the procedure is very simple. So whatever procedure is there, everything remains same itself. So now the first step, so all procedures remain same, but you have to do these correlations also. So all the steps are same. Okay, so the steps are same actually. So the steps are same, but only thing is, this correlation coefficient matrix you have to follow. Okay, so rho is the correlation coefficients basically. So this is a matrix to say. So it is a matrix of the correlation coefficient, not the covariance actually. Okay. So correlation coefficient means what is the maximum correlation coefficient is. You remember correlation coefficient means what is the maximum value?
1.
1.
1 or plus or minus 1. You followed a negative or positive correlation. So this you have to format. Now your beta say the small change in the beta will be there. Okay. So now this was the original expression was G transpose Z star. This is our design point, but divided by G transpose into G. Okay, this was the original thing. Now when the random variables are correlated, say, so this expression remains the same, but small change actually. So G transpose Z star say divided by G transpose. Okay, so you multiply by this row matrix here. G. So this is a small change at all the calculations. So now rho is our matrix. Suppose if they are all uncorrelated, say, now what happens? What will how the row matrix will look like if they are all uncorrelated? Now
identity matrix.
It will be identity. So when you are having identity matrix, anyway, you know, it comes back to the original thing itself. Okay. Now the alphas also. So which anyway is G by, you see, square root of G transpose multiplied by G. So this also a small change only. So this becomes, you know, the numerator is going to remain, sorry, the numerator we have rho, okay, multiplied by G. Now, by the denominator also we have G transpose rho say multiplied by G actually. So this is how the small changes you have to do. So rho comes on the numerator as well as in the denominator. So this is the change you have to do when the random variables are, you know, the correlated actually. But please remember, this rho is not a covariance matrix. It is a correlation coefficient matrix. So it means, you know, we'll be having 1, 0, 0.1, 0.2 like that on. The maximum it can take is, you know, plus or minus 1 itself. So this way, so all the steps remain same, that equivalent normal or equivalent that, you know, whatever, everything remains the same, only beta and alpha say. So these steps have to be slightly changed actually, where you can bring your this matrix. Now, so all the steps remain same, the same expressions. So all the steps, whatever we have written, say the step 1, step 2, step 3, everything is going to remain same. Okay. So only thing is, you know, now 1 second. So only thing is, you see, this step 4 remains same, step 5 also remains same. Then step 6 say. So here you will get this row matrix in the denominator basically. Now in the step 7 also you will have this row in the this one as well as in the denominator also. And all other steps remains same actually. Okay, so there is no change in our calculations basically. So this way you can calculate for you know, the correlated random variables also. Some problems are there, you know, the same problems say. If there is a correlation, you can calculate actually. If they are negatively correlated, what happens? If they are positively correlated, what happens? If they are uncorrelated or if they are highly correlated, you know, we can solve, you follow it. So several things are there. And even your convergence also says, if they are uncorrelated, you may get convergence by 5 iterations. Suppose if they are correlated, say, then you know, you may get convergence faster, or sometimes convergence may take some time also. So one has to, you know, numerically, if you calculate, you follow it, you can understand actually. Okay. So this way you can calculate for all other things itself. And now, of course, as already we mentioned it, you can solve by Monte Carlo simulation also. It's a straightforward. So Monte Carlo simulation means, you know, no. So you just compute, you know, the same problem. Say you generate 1,000 or 1 lakh random variables. You substitute, you calculate probability of failure, and then you can calculate, you know, the reliability index and all other things in your calculations also. Okay. So this way you can calculate the reliability indexes. And now let us see the most, you know, the next this one, the interesting thing, that is, you know, the system reliability also. Okay. So right now we have seen, you know, the reliability. Now let us see the system reliability. Okay. So right now we know how to calculate for a component. So component reliability, all of you know how to calculate reliability for a beam, how to calculate reliability for a column, this and that we know. But now if I want to calculate a system reliability, say like let us say I have a building like this actually, okay, which has many components. This one you followed, right? So this one also is there. So some buildings, so load is here, you know, some load is here. You followed. So something like this. So now what do you mean by failure here? No. So what do you mean by failure of this type of a building, say? So what do you call failure here? Now, right now, you know, for a simple beam, how to calculate reliability, you know, you followed, right? You can easily calculate whatever we have studied. Now, if it is a multi-story building or several components are there, say, now how do we calculate the reliability? So what's the difference between this problem and this problem? What is that you have to do extra, or what is the, you know, that extra things which we have to do here, or mathematically what's the difference between these two? Now what's the difference between this one and this one, component failure and system failure? See what happens here.
So load transfer mechanism.
No, load transfer, that is fine. No, I'm talking about failures. What do you mean by failure actually? See here,
Formation of
failure means we
mechanism.
said, see here failure was like movement capacity, say that fz into y, you know, if that is less than your m, that we are calling as a failure basically. Now here, what do you mean by failure? Namita, I think you are telling something. No?
Failure mechanism. We have to see enough number of plastic in.
So now what's the thing you have to do? So now here what? So first of all, what do you mean by failure itself is a, you know, thing you have to define actually failure. So what do you mean by failure here? Column failure or beam failure or all three columns failure, or you followed, right? You may have a, suppose if it is a, you know, determinate structure, say there is no indeterminacy in the system actually. Now what happens if there is no indeterminacy? No.
One component failure will be the failure of the global structure.
So whole structure will fail if it is a determinate system, say. So one component fails, everything fails. Now generally in our structural engineering, what do? We give additional indeterminacy, right? So what happens when you give indeterminacy? So then one component failure may not lead to overall failure basically. You followed. So like one column collapses, that does not lead to the whole system failure itself. You followed. So indeterminacy, determinacy, you know, all the things matters a lot. So you have to define what do you mean by failure itself. System failure basically. So this is what we have to define. Okay, so what is that? So beam collapse is taken as a complete system structure failure, or column collapse. Suppose this column collapses, so that means the structure also collapses, or how do we handle this thing? And then even in our structural engineering section, generally we use RCC type of structures actual. Okay, steel will be there, concrete will be there, and others. Now for if it is a concrete, say the failure, what type of failure will be there for concrete? So there may be a brittle material, there may be a ductile material. So you would have studied, right? Brittle, ductile, you know, all kinds of things will be there. So some steel beam is there, some if it is a concrete, this one is there. So then, you know, a brittle failure means, you know, it will be slightly different. Ductile means something, it will be different. So what happens is, you know, you, the failure, say it is a very, for a system means, you know, all the individual components also you have to see, then the overall things also we have to see basically actually. So this is what we call as, you know, how to calculate the system reliability. So mathematically speaking, this problem is essentially, see for the simple problems, what is the limit, how many limit states are there? So for the simple problem, how many limit states? See for the simple problems, how many limit states are there? Like for the previous problem,
3.
So this problem, how many limit states was there? The failure. See the simple beam problem was
one sir.
Only like Fy(z) into minus m, maybe the one limit state we may have. If you are going only by strength, if you want a deflection also you can include. But if you say for each component, say, so each component you have a limit state basically. Now your suppose a structure means, you know, 100 components are there, say. So how many limit states will, and some of them may be something, some of them may be brittle, ductile, or so many things will be there. So if there are 100 components, so how many limit states will be there? See 100 components will be there. So now you have to check for this beam, you have to check for this beam, this beam, this beam. So the limit states will be because the load will be different, right? Load coming on each beam, load coming on each column is different. So what happens is you will be having multiple limit states actually. You followed. So many limit states you have to, and then you have to intersection of all overall thing also, you know, has to be come into the picture actually. So this is a issue. So when you have to do this, you know, the system reliability. So now generally the system reliability is, it's very complicated to calculate, but for our simplifications, like generally in our engineering, our whole, you know, thing is, whenever you see a complicated problem, you know, we break it into simple problems actually. So here the most important thing comes is to understand this failure, series and parallel springs. Okay, this comes series and parallel systems. Of course, in reality, structure will have all kinds of things, but we to understand easily, say series and parallel, you know, like series springs and parallel springs we define. So like for example, say I have a chains are there, a spring which is consist of lot of you know, the chains actually. So now what is meant by failure here? So in this chain, say one chain collapses, what happens to the entire system? So it has so many components. This is one component, component 2, component 3, component 4, like that. You see 5 rings are there in this chain actually. If one thing collapses, what happens to the system?
Entire system collapses.
So what is the meaning of this one? Component failure is same as?
Structural failure. System.
So this we call as series systems actually. You followed. So this is what we call as series systems actually. Then parallel system also we have. See, like for example, the same. So we are having a cables actually. Okay, so like this. Something like the cables are there, and you are joining some weight you followed, right? You are going like this. And now you are having 4 components. This one cable, second cable, third cable, fourth cable. And now what is mean by failure here? If component failure is same as system failure?
No, sir.
Now why?
Because they're connected in series. Like some of them which are not filled, they will take the additional load.
That what is that meaning of that? And it is basically the system is indeterminate. You follow, right? So if you are having one component, it is a determinate system. You follow, right? If you have 2 or something, say that things are you are providing with indeterminacy. So component failure is not same as the system failure itself. So these type of things we call as parallel systems actually. This is just a terminology we use actually, okay, like a series, springs in series or parallel, something like that. So just to find the the reliability, say. So we have like reliability for series type of systems, parallel type of systems. So generally all your indeterminacy, all those things comes under parallel basically, okay. So if it's a determinate structure or one component itself leads to the whole system failure, it comes under series type of systems. But in reality, if you see our structures basically, okay, so you will have hybrid systems. That means you will have some things which are connected in series, some things which you have connected in parallel also. Anyway, you will give the examples of all those problems also. So this one you followed, right? So the static, suppose if I have a statistically determinate truss, say like if I have truss like this. So I have a truss basically, okay. Yeah, so this is a truss. Simple, this itself. Now you have a load actually, PP. Now what type of, and it is a determinate also. Of course, all of how to calculate this, statistically determinate truss. Now it is in series or parallel. Statically, statically determinate truss say. So what happens whether it is in series or parallel? What type of how it is going to fail?
It's in series.
What do you series means? The definition is that they are connected in series or something. The assumption is
The one component failure will lead to global failure of the system.
one component failure, it leads to the this component failure itself. Okay, so this is what we call as a series system itself. Okay. Now, if you are having this type of trusses, say. Okay. Now you tell me whether it is what type of failure it will be, series or parallel. And you have some load also, this here or something like that. Now tell me, this is in
Parallel.
series. Why?
Because here we have some like components which are extra, like it is indeterminate.
So that is indeterminate actually. So this is something we call as a parallel. So the reliability calculations for this type of systems will be different. For this type of systems will be different itself actually. Okay. So these are one thing. So now these type of things have a lot of applications. Like for example, if you are constructing a bridge, say, okay. So now bridge means so you will be having like the piers will be there, the girder will be there, you followed. So girder will be there, then lot of piers will be there, then another girder will be there, pier will be there, you followed. So now what do you mean by failure actual? So you will be probability of failure of pier, probability of failure of girder, So now finally say, so what will be the probability of failure for the overall thing? So that becomes a very important. Okay, so this is what anyway the system, the reliability comes into picture here. Okay. So fine. So how to calculate for all these problems, that we have to see. So anyway, so I will stop here. So the next class, we will continue our discussion on this system reliability. Okay. Fine. So if you have any doubts or questions, you can ask me.